So you've been thinking about becoming a chartered accountant in India. You probably know the path is, well, it's demanding. But what if that path just got a major redesign? The ICAI has launched a new scheme, and in this explainer, we're going to break it all down for you step by step.
But why even take on such a huge challenge? I mean, really, why go through it? Well, it's because CAs are, quite literally, the backbone of the economy. They're the pros who help drive the nation's growth, and that earns them a ton of respect, not just in India, but all over the world.
We all know it's one of India's toughest exams. But what is it that really makes it so notoriously difficult? It's not just about crunching numbers. It's about the incredible depth and sheer breadth of knowledge you need to master. And if you want to see that challenge in numbers, well, here it is. For the CA Intermediate exam back in January 2023, the pass rate was just under 10%. Yep, that means over 90% of the people who took it didn't make it through. Now, this isn't to scare you, but it just goes to show how critical having a clear strategy really is.
Think of this whole journey as climbing Mount Everest. It's a huge undertaking. So, before we map out the new route to the summit, let's first get a feel for the terrain and understand what makes this climb so incredibly tough. Okay, so the difficulty really boils down to a few key things. First, the syllabus is just massive and can feel pretty overwhelming. It's not about memorizing stuff, it's about getting a deep, critical understanding of a whole bunch of different topics. And honestly, one of the biggest parts is just staying motivated through a very long and demanding journey.
But here's the really good news. The ICAI has redesigned the path. They've created a clearer, more structured roadmap to get you to the top. This is your guide to that new scheme.
The whole journey is now broken down into 4 clear stages. First up, you've got the CA Foundation. That's your entry point. Then, you hit the CA Intermediate, which is the core hurdle. After that, you dive into 2 years of practical, real-world training. And finally, you face the CA Final, the last big climb where you prove you've mastered the profession. So, what's the timeline look like? You're looking at about 4 months of study for the foundation stage. The intermediate level takes about 8 months. Then comes that crucial 2-year practical training period, which you might know as articleship. And after all that, you get a 6-month study period before your final exams.
Now, there are 2 main ways to start this journey. Think of them as 2 trailheads to the same mountain. The foundation route is for students who are just out of class 12. But if you're already a graduate or you have other professional qualifications, you can take the direct entry route and jump right into the intermediate level, completely skipping the foundation exam.
Okay, this is where things get really interesting. Let's zoom in on the most critical part of this new scheme, the link between the intermediate exam and the practical training, or articleship. This is where the biggest changes have happened. The CA Intermediate syllabus has been streamlined, and there's a really smart reason for this. The focus is now on building a strong, solid conceptual foundation before you step into the practical world. It just makes your training that much more effective.
So what's on the test? The intermediate level now has 6 papers, split into 2 groups. In Group 1, you've got Advanced Accounting, Corporate Laws, and Taxation. And in Group 2, you're looking at Cost and Management Accounting, Auditing and Ethics, and a combined paper on Financial and Strategic Management.
Okay, listen up, because this is probably the single biggest change in the whole scheme. Your articleship, that mandatory practical training, is now 2 years long. But the game-changing rule is that you can only start it after you've passed both groups of the CA Intermediate exam. The thinking here is simple. It makes sure you walk into your articleship ready to apply what you know, not just learn it from scratch.
All right, so we've mapped out the mountain. We know the new rules. Now, let's talk about the climbing gear. How do you actually succeed on this path? This next section is all about strategy.
You know, a solid plan is absolutely everything here. This timeline kind of lays out a recommended strategy. Once you pass your foundation exam, you'll start classes for Group 1 and then move on to Group 2. That's followed by a dedicated chunk of time just for self-study and revision before you sit for the intermediate exam. Structure is key.
To help you stay on track, think of this as your success toolkit. You need stellar educators and a course that's structured strategically. You'll want specially curated notes and to take regular tests to see where you stand. Make sure you have a smooth way to get your doubts resolved. And, this is a big one, carve out dedicated time for self-study.
All right, a few final pro tips from me to you. First, focus on the concepts. The new scheme is all about analytical skills, not just memorizing facts. Second, get to know the weightage of different topics so you can prioritize your study time. And finally, always stay updated with announcements from the Board of Studies.
So after all that hard work, the studying, the exams, the training, you've made it. You've reached the summit. What's the reward for all that incredible effort?
In a word, opportunity. A CA qualification isn't just one key. It's a whole keyring that opens so many doors. You can become an entrepreneur, go into management consulting, work in government, or even get into IT consulting and advanced finance. The possibilities are just vast.
At the end of the day, this journey really is a marathon, not a sprint. And every single challenging step, including those new articleship rules, is designed with one goal: to shape you into a future-ready professional who can thrive on a global stage. So we've laid out the map for you, the challenges, the strategies. The path is clearer now than it's ever been. The only question left is, are you ready to begin the ascent?